Hello and welcome to The Stack. This week I paid a visit to Sandeep Garg, owner of Shreeji News and Magazines, one of the best newsstands in London. Plus, Pina, a magazine that is literally an exhibition space in the form of a print title. And finally, we discover why the Spanish are so good with comic books. Enjoy the show. From Midori House in London, this is The Stack, 30 minutes of print industry analysis, and I am Fernando Augusto Pacheco. We start the show with a Stack favorite. It is Sandeep Garg, owner of Shreeji News and Magazines here in Chiltern Street, not far from our headquarters here in Midori House. The shop is a firm favorite among locals and magazine lovers. It's also an exciting event space hosting a plethora of magazine launches and good coffee and cake too. I've stopped by to ask Sandeep what are his plans for 2025.
I feel it's going to be a busier year, but I also think that it's going to be something where we are going to try and also make it even more curated. So what happens has some semblance to what we are about in terms of print, in terms of all of these areas.
And you are still very much a believer in print, right?
Yes, 100%. I still think this is the backbone of the business. It's like the thing that we enjoy doing.
And there's so many new titles. I mean, literally every time I come here, you received a new magazine from Italy, from Japan, from so many different places.
Constantly, more and more people are coming on board into publishing. I feel a lot of it is now not people with a commercial angle wanting to necessarily profit from it in the short term, but try and create some kind of a legacy for themselves that either is highlighting their brand or it's talking about a place that they love, maybe so it's based on a city, like a travel guide, or it's cross-cultural to try and portray what is happening with people's lives in terms of sexuality instead of gender, changes, all of these things that are taking place at a very fast pace, but also trying to slow it down by putting it into print and not making it easily accessible online and digitally. So the time that you have to access that is in a way very different and in a very different manner, something that you can have in front of you whenever you want. It's not being thrown at you constantly, bombarded at you.
So how does it work? The brands, they get in touch with you and say, listen, we want to have our new magazine or new launch at your space. It's funny because close to me there is some print from Bottega Veneta. That's an example of a brand not related to print, but they are kind of investing. They see the value of it.
Yes, I think, which just goes back to what I was saying earlier, I think there is a connection between something that is tangible, something that people can also bring their creativity into. And not everybody can afford a £5,000 bag or a £5,000 dress, but they can still connect to the brand and get some ethos of the brand, some feeling that they're connected to that brand by having something that belongs to them. And quite often these products are gifted. So it's again, in a way, they're not trying to profit from everything they're doing, trying to give back to the community in a way as a brand as well, and show that they are on level ground with everybody who has a different disposable income.
And I want to talk about Shreeji itself. Of course, it's been a mainstay here at Marylebone for years. I think since I've started at Monocle, which has been a
1982. It's
1982.
82.
Wow.
43 years now, almost.
Did you ever imagine that actually magazines would be cool again? Because you have your Instagram. It's there. You know, you talk about the new titles being launched.
Yes.
That's very exciting. You know?
I think it is exciting because I think it's become very widespread, the interest level of people, what they're trying to get. And COVID has not been gone that long. It's only a few years since we had COVID, which forced people to actually be inside, not to be able to access print. I think it's a fallback on that as well, that people are going back. They're getting better quality titles where somebody's making a real effort to actually give them something that they can enjoy, dip into, keep, preserve, maybe give it, share it with somebody else. So magazines and books, I think the borders are now blurring quite a lot, where they are becoming very similar in a sense. And sometimes the magazines are more relevant because they're updated more regularly. Whereas with the book, once you bought it, you have it, and unless somebody gives you an updated version of it or they reprint it with some additions, it's actually the same book that everybody's buying. But the same publisher, if they went into printing something, which was a magazine format, you could update that much more gradually.
I'm curious about something. What does it sell well at Shreeji? Because I'm the kind of customer, I don't mind buying a copy of Radio Times as well, but or you're more focused on the big biannuals, on the special editions. How do you see the market changing?
I think because of the lack of space in a way that we are not able to give everybody as much depth as we would like to with weeklies and monthlies and bi-monthlies and biannuals. So we do have to pick quite carefully what we stock. And realistically, the weeklies are probably the ones that sell the least in a way, because I think they are the impulse buys, which are probably more sold through supermarkets, etc., but they do have vast spaces and they will sell them in quantity. We tend to get more based around topics or genres, if you want to call them. So somebody's looking for magazines on design, or they're looking for something on fashion, or they're looking for something on literature, or they're looking for something on branding, advertising. So those kind of areas I feel are still the ones that we feel that we fulfill really well. And art is another big one, where people are looking for things that inform them well of coming trends, or maybe you have modern art, you have contemporary art, all those different areas that are of interest to people.
What do you read, Sandeep? I wonder, are you a big newspaper guy, or you just flick through all your lovely titles?
I think I do. It's like fast digestion. I look through everything very, very quickly. But to me, it's the feel of the paper, the way it's presented. Those things catch my eye more than what is inside all the time. It takes a long time to actually read through. But the presentation and the way something comes across with maybe just through the index, you're able to get something of an idea what it's about, which has to be done. I think, again, there is so much available. Where do you stop? And you don't want to restrict yourself to one magazine because that's the one you've liked. In the past, I would say I had these 3 favorites. Yeah. I can no longer say that, because when I look at them, they have also changed, or they've just stayed completely the same. And to me now, staying the same is not something that really is a very valid reason for actually just keeping going with that one title. So I would always say, like, Apartmento was my favorite, but I feel there are other magazines that have come on the scene, like MacGuffin, for instance,
right,
that are really also going beyond what anybody expects a magazine to do. So the research is really in-depth. They're really exploding that topic completely wide open and just seeing how one small, simple thing that you use every day, like a table or a chair or a rug, has got so much history, so much value behind it, that you can really get an idea of how big that product or that item of furniture is.
Yeah.
Its application, its usability, and what its history is.
And finally, Sandeep, let's go back to the events. We're having actually one at the moment.
Yes,
fashion brand Bowden, right?
Yes.
Are you booked up for February, March? Because you were talking about how busy.
Yes, it is fairly busy, the calendar, but what I'm trying to do is to curate the events more to do with published material. It's always beautiful to work with people who have a strong passion for their brand. But the idea for us in what we do and what we represent is also to try and be connected to brands that are doing something with print. And in that way, we keep both things alive. We have the connection to fashion, which is obviously featured heavily in published material. But we don't want to be just focusing on fashion as a pop-up or as an event.
Thank you as always, Sandeep, and you can visit Shreeji News and Magazines at London's Chiltern Street. And now we head to Paris via Spain. Our Paris bureau chief, Simon Bouvier, paid a visit to the 52nd edition of the Festival International de la Bande Dessinée d'Angoulême, one of the world's leading comic book fairs. While there, he spoke with Oscar Valiente, partner and general manager at the biggest Spanish comic publishing house, Norma Editorial, which also has a well-known bookshop in Barcelona. Here is their conversation on Spain's growing ecosystem of comic book artists.
Norma Editorial is one of the biggest comic publishers in Spain. It's a company founded in year 77, so have a long history. It's a company that started as an artist agency, working with Spanish artists that created illustrations, cover art, and comics for publishers around the world, and soon started to do their own publications, doing those same artists on comic editions, but also translating for the Spanish market really important worldwide artists like Moebius, Enki Bilal, Hugo Pratt, Jacques Tardy, and more later Frank Miller, Mike Mignola, and then the manga. So we have a catalog in which we publish a lot of different kind of contents. We publish more than 500 books every year, 500 comics. We have also a big bookstore in Barcelona with more than 1,000 square meters. The distinctive of our company is that we work in a 360 business system in which we participate in all the areas of the comic production and distribution, because also we have also our own distribution company. We are one of the longest and the biggest publishers now in Spain.
And Spain is the guest of honor at this year's International BD Festival in Angoulême. Can you tell us about the significance of the festival in general for you and your publishing house, and then this year in particular?
Yeah, it is very important. We're also the founders of an association called Sectorial del Cómic. It's a very unique association because it's not composed only by publishers, but also by bookstores, artists, events, and all the kind of professionals connected to the world of comics in Spain. And our goal is to push the administration, the government, to improve the conditions of the market and the professionals of the comics in Spain. And being here in Angoulême is part of this strategy of the Spanish government that is reacted to our request for making more visibilization to the Spanish artists, because we have a lot of good Spanish artists working worldwide for the American market, the French market, but some of those markets don't know that some of the series that they like more comes from Spanish artists. So this is part of a strategy to say, hey, we are Spain, we are not big as the French market, but we have really talented artists.
How have you seen the kind of ecosystem of Spanish comic artists evolve in the time that you've been involved in comics? Was it mostly at the beginning Spanish artists who were working for foreign publications like American comics and maybe French bande dessinée? How have you seen it evolve into what it is today?
Yeah, the market evolved and changed a lot in the last 40 years, because in the 70s, well, Spain have a tradition of more than 100 years of publication. As you can see here in an exhibition in Angoulême that makes a trip from the very beginning of the Spanish creators to today. And from the very beginning, the comic artists were really connected to the magazines in the newsstands. We had really important magazines in the history of Spain in the early of last century, and on 70s and 80s, new magazines like Metal Hurlant here in France appeared in the Spanish scene, and we had maybe 8-10 really important magazines in which you could find the works of Enki Bilal, Moebius, but also the Spanish artists. But during the years 2010, those magazines started to disappear, and then the graphic novels started to be more and more important. So we moved from the newsstands, because in the newsstands were not only the sales of the magazines, but also the comics, the collected comics. We moved to the bookstores, and the bookstores needed different kind of format, more pages, more graphic novel. Then a new generation of women artists also entered the market, and changed it a lot from creators that were really focused on science fiction, fantasy for France, or superheroes for the United States, to a new generation that also continue working on those markets, but a lot of new artists with a really personal view, explaining stories with a lot of biographical contents related to the things that about the society is worried. It changed a lot. Today we have a lot of artists working still for the superheroes market, for example, but of course we have a big quantity of really talented artists working with topics really, really different from the superheroes or fiction. Especially non-fiction is really healthy.
Who are some of the artists that have impressed you in recent years?
Well, in Spain, we have a really lot of artists. Paco Roca maybe is one of the artists most well-known worldwide now, and is really successful in Spain. There are some big names in Spain like Miguel Anxo Prado, that is publishing for 30, 40 years right now. Daniel Torres, Antonio Altarriba, Keiko, Sergio Garcia. The list is really, really big and really impressive. And I recommend to check the winners of the National Prize of Spain that we can see here in Angoulême in an exhibition, because it's a powerful example of the diversity and the quality of those artists. And of course we have artists like Juanjo Guarnido, Juan Díaz Canales, the creators of Black Sat. It is one of the most well-known series worldwide, and the quality of the Spanish scene is really, really high.
One market dynamic that I find interesting is the kind of domination of manga in the global market.
Yeah.
What do you think explains this kind of continued popularity? Because it's been one of Japan's best known cultural exports for a while now. Why do you think it continues to dominate in this industry?
Well, the Japanese contents and the North American contents have something that is difficult to replicate, and it's the media adaptations that they have. They have an industry of production of TV series, movies, video games, really connected to the manga or the American comics. Every year they have a lot of new productions that are attracting the interest on the streaming platforms, and then for the comics that are the original from those adaptations. For us, for example, from the view of Spain, it's difficult to do competition with these markets, because the disadvantage of the adaptations is really, really hard to fight. But the positive thing that have the manga or the American superheroes is that is bringing new readers to the market. So we hope that they maybe start with manga and will discover little by little Spanish artists, French artists. It's not bad at all. I prefer kids and young people watching anime on TV than looking on, I don't know, TikTok videos, for example, no? Because in the end they will come to the bookstores, to the comic events, and maybe they will discover other things.
Right. Could you tell us a little bit about the year ahead and what you're thinking about at this fair specifically? What are you trying to achieve, and how does being here inform what you're going to be doing in 2025?
Yeah, last year was quite good for the Spanish market. Well, today the market is double than the pre-pandemic period. 2019 was the record of sales in Spain and was maybe 60 million of turnover, and today is 130 million. On 2023, not only Spain but all the international markets have had a reduction, because the interest of comics after the pandemic had a super boost. In 2023, we had a kind of adjustment, and the sales were down, but last year was quite good and is recovering. And I think that after Angoulême, for us as an industry, the most important is to confirm the interest of the Spanish government to continue pushing the creation, the Spanish creation, and the industrial part of our market. So we hope that in the next years we will have a lot of new artists finding better conditions to develop their creativity, not being forced to go to international markets to work. And this is the most positive that I find here in Angoulême today.
That's great. One other thing that I wanted to ask you about is your shop in Barcelona, which you mentioned, and it has won awards. We at Monocle are very interested in retail and how to create experiences for customers. Tell us about your shop and your thinking around it.
Yeah. Yeah, the Barcelona shop, the name is Norma Comics. It's a different trademark than the editorial. In this store, we sell all the comics from all the publishers. It is not a kind of showroom of our publishing house. This is really important because some people told me if the store is for our own products, and I say no, yeah, we sell everybody there. It started in the year '83 with a small in a small place, and it was growing up through the years, and now it's more than 1,000 square meters. And the last years were challenging because with the introduction of Amazon in Spain and the online sales, we had to adapt our strategy. We needed to create a kind of experience. So entering the bookstore had to be something special, something magic. And we effort a lot on the decoration of the walls, on doing a lot of activities with comic artists, presentations. So doing not only focused on selling, but focused on giving to the community of comics something extra, something special. Because if not, everybody will remain buying the comics on Amazon or online. And of course, we are doing online. We have a really powerful department of selling online. But yes, the Barcelona store is very unique and a special place.
That was Oscar Valiente, partner and general manager at Norma Editorial. And finally on the show, a fascinating new magazine called Pina, a title that works as a commissioning platform and exhibition space for 2 artists every issue, 60 pages each. For issue 1, the artists featured are Gala Poraskin and Assad Raza. I had the pleasure to speak with Pina's editor, Catalina Imskos, in studio.
So I come from the world of editorial, and I've been particularly working closely with artists on editorial projects for like more than 15 years. But the idea of turning that experience into a magazine format was a first for me. So I don't necessarily belong in the magazine world, but I really like the fact of Pina becoming a serial publication. I'm going to tell you more about the idea, but just to answer your question about magazines in particular, what I love about them is their regularity and the fact that once you fall in love with a magazine, you can follow it and you can get issue after issue and sort of like get excited by its trajectory. And I think Pina really belongs in that world. Then in terms of the idea itself, so we talk about ourselves as being a 60-page room to play. Pina is more than a magazine, actually a commissioning platform. What we're doing is that we invite artists. For each issue, it's 2 artists, and they are presented with 60 pages and commissioned to conceive of exhibitions meant entirely for the flat space of the magazine. So we contain 2 exhibitions in an issue. We are, I would say, designed to offer readers this intimate and immersive experience of an exhibition.
And besides, you mentioned 60 pages for each artist. I think each issue will feature like 2 artists. Mm-hmm. Besides this constriction that it needs to be 60 pages, do you give complete freedom to those artists to do whatever they want? Perhaps are they people that you know their work perhaps before?
So I definitely know and love their work before, and so does Bitsy Knox, who is the deputy editor that works with me on the commissioning side of things. But then we love the fact that we give them complete blank pages. So the 60 pages really don't have any other design element apart from the trim size of Pina, which will always remain the same. The idea is for them to really feel like they enter an empty room and they can do inside of it whatever they want. We even go as far as telling them that because we offer artists an artist fee and a production budget, as any commissioning platform would. And we even go as far as telling them that they could use part of that production budget to alter the materiality. So they could choose to work with a different kind of paper, but it would always be in that trim size and 60 pages of that paper.
That's fascinating. And one thing we can already predict about Pina in the upcoming issues as well, that every issue look very different as well in a way, right? Because, even those two artists that you chose, so, some people might want to use photography, someone else might just do very text-heavy stuff. So there'll be different elements as well, right, of the art.
Yeah, I think you already see some of that in issue 1.
Mm-hmm.
So for issue 1, we commissioned Gala Porras Kim and Asad Raza. And as I was saying just now, we didn't really give them any parameters apart from these 60 pages that were theirs to fill. And Asad is working on a super image-led kind of project, whereas Gala has been working with research and lawyers and Egyptologists to go into a very texty kind of world. Both of them, I think, do this magical thing of carrying the reader through an experience. So as you flick through the pages, there's a very kind of bodily sense of traveling through a space and getting into an exhibition, really, like as you would in any other 3D gallery where you start to understand what the artist has put together for you. But yeah, definitely there are very varied things that artists could be doing with these 60 pages. We do not commission artists who have already been working with print or whose preferred medium has something to do with the print format, but rather we say that Pina is open to any artist, all artists. So anyone, even artists who are very object-based or artists who work with installations, could transform Pina into a space for them to make an exhibition in.
And that's your role as an editor, perhaps, is kind of giving some sort of guidance to then how can their work be applied to print as well, right?
Exactly. We always talk about the fact that, we've partnered up with this amazing design studio called Graphic Thought Facility that has more than 30 years trajectory here in London. And they're incredibly print savvy. And what they offer is a whole range of graphic design and print tools for the artist to be able to experiment with. And really the exhibitions are produced and created with the help of the graphic designers, the editors, and the artists. So it's a multidisciplinary kind of experience. And talking about multidisciplinarity, which is something that we really value in Pina, we also commission a short story that comes with each one of the exhibitions that we print. So this whole experience of being able to navigate through a space entails, I think, in my mind, a lot of imagination and a lot of creativity on behalf of readers engaging with this object. And the reason we commission a short story is because we want to kind of hone in on that imagination side of things. So we think fiction is the perfect portal to invite readers to really flesh out what their experience is like and kind of even to invent their own stories about these exhibitions. So there's not only the design element that makes Pina interdisciplinary, but also the fact that we work with visual arts and literature, and that the magazine actually is a little bit like treading both worlds.
And a basic question, why Pina? Tell us about the name.
So Pina, there are actually like so many different reasons, because I think one beautiful thing that can happen with names is that when they're appropriate, they sort of start to multiply. So the initial reason was because I really like the word pinacoteca, because yes, pinacotecas are galleries or actually image houses. So very, very basically spaces that house images before we had like the kind of art galleries or museums that we know today. So we wanted to emphasize the fact that Pina is a gallery space, an image house of sorts. But then also the root word for that Pina that makes Pinacoteca is Pinax with an X at the end. And that stands for a flat board or tablet. So again, there's this flatness element, and our space is definitely flat. 60 pages are flat, but we like the fact that you can do so much within that flatness, and that even that flatness can become 3D in your mind's eye or in your imagination. That sort of immersive experience that we're aiming for. And also, and this is, I mean, I don't want to kind of go on forever with the name, but I really do love all of these coincidences. Image and imago and imagination are all words that are related. So there's also, by calling it Pina, we are also kind of tapping into that imagination side of things that comes with the word image.
That's perfect. That's a great. I love knowing the names of magazines. Where did it came from? But you're talking about a flat exhibition. We're talking here about a magazine. But you've been very busy introducing the title in art fairs around the world as well. How did it work? Do you think there was a great spaces, perhaps, to introduce an idea like this?
Yeah. So I mean, it's true that we've only launched Pina like a month and a half ago. And the reception and the invitation on behalf of other institutions to do events in their spaces has been beautiful and really powerful. I think that's really because we are this kind of like portable exhibition space that can go into other spaces with its content and enter into a dialogue with institutions or commercial galleries or any kind of other art spaces that have similar aims or similar ethos. So, for example, we did a beautiful panel at the Neue Instituut in Rotterdam, which is a space really devoted to architecture and design and thinking about how exhibition spaces can incorporate other worldviews. And that is very much at the center of Pina. So we did together a panel discussion talking about the possibilities of exhibition design with their director, Arik Chen, and Pina kind of hosting that event. We were also invited to Storefront for art and architecture in New York, because Jose Esparza, the director, got really excited with the idea of Pina, and he invited us over to New York. We've done events here in London, of course, notably with Gala Porras Kim, one of the two artists featured in the issue, at Delfina Foundation, because her residency there was a little bit of the starting point for the project that she developed in Pina. And now we're going to Mexico. We're going to be a part of Salon Acme, because Terremoto is doing a whole curated room. Terremoto, the publishing, another magazine, is doing a whole curated room about decenterings, and they invited us on this premise that we are decentering the exhibition space. And I could go on. I mean,
amazing, but you're really being quite international with it as well. I believe is the magazine kind of based in London. You're based here, right? You're from Argentina, but I guess it's kind of an international publication in that sense.
Yeah, we really, I mean, I don't, in the cover, to answer this question, we talk about, rather than saying that the issue is the autumn issue, we say this thing that might sound contradictory at first, that is spring, autumn 2024.
Yeah.
And that's because we acknowledge that it's spring in the south and autumn in the north. And when issue 2 comes out, like in the opposite moment, it'll be spring and south on the different hemispheres. So we want to bring this idea to the fore about Pina being a space that can be everywhere at the same time, because it is really a portable exhibition space, and therefore it can be north and south, US, Europe, Asia, etc.
I like that. Everyone has the same kind of rights.
Exactly.
Yes.
Everyone can visit the exhibition from wherever they are. And I think that's a really important thing for exhibition practice and for the circulation of artists and their work and their own practice as well.
I know you can buy a magazine and a special edition as well of a poster on your website. Are there any other places in terms of stockists for Pina, perhaps museums, as we were just discussing here?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're working with a distributor, Public Knowledge Books, who we love because they're also friends and they're doing a very, very good job. And they're stocking us in all of the kind of spaces that would stock art and culture magazines. We also, because we work so closely with museums and institutions, we also work directly with them to have the magazine there. But it's really a broad range that we're covering. We're, for example, also quite interested in students because we acknowledge how experimental they are and we want them to feel welcome in a space like this. So we offer them a 50% discount to buy the magazine. The price point is also, we're trying to make it as accessible as possible for people who might not normally get like loads of art magazines to also feel excited about this idea of a magazine in the pages and to be able to buy it and experience it on their own terms.
And Catalina, of course, this magazine is very much about the two artists chosen, right? I would like you perhaps, briefly to tell us about both of them. Maybe we can start with Assad, Raza. What was his main idea?
So Assad is an artist that we commissioned particularly because he works with exhibition spaces in his practice. So we thought it was very beautiful to have the opportunity to have someone in issue 1 who was going to bring attention to this very special space that we were trying to create. And it was very, very exciting when he first pitched the idea to us, because he pointed out that in the end, the space of Pina is conformed by these two elements, which are the paper and the light bouncing off that paper into your eye. So he kind of managed to minimize it to the very, very essentials. And his exhibition is an exploration of those two elements and the journeys that they made in order to arrive in the reader's hand and to make this exhibition happen. So he's traced radiation from across the universe. And because the prompt was to work within 60 pages, as we've discussed, he chose points in the universe that have the number 60 in their distance. So something like 60 million light years away, 60,000 light years away, etc., etc. So there's a variety of images that are sourced from public telescopes of all of these spots in the universe that are actually bouncing radiation to us at every single moment. Like even right now as we speak, the fact that we're looking at each other has to do with that radiation coming to us. So it's a very present time, like real time exhibition. And he's also traced the journey of the paper on which Pina is printed. So we spoke to Fedrigoni, our paper manufacturer. We did a lot of research to understand where the pulp was being sourced. And he went to that forest in order to shoot those very same trees that are then going to be made into the pulp that is the paper where that light is bouncing off into your eye. So it's an incredibly self-referential kind of project that brings to the fore Pina as an unprecedented exhibition space, but also a beautiful manifestation of Assad's practice working with exhibition spaces at the center of his work. And then Gala, shall I tell you a little bit about that?
I would love to know.
Gala is someone that I met here in London when she was doing a residency at Gasworks. And she's been working with the spiritual lives of objects housed in museum collections for many, many years. So she has a very beautiful and acute sense of humor. And she would normally address collections and museums to give them some sort of insight on what that object and its spiritual life might need in order to be fulfilled within the exhibition, within the museum's kind of display space. For Pina, she went really far because she was doing some research at the British Museum, and she found this statue of a person, an Asian Egyptian official called Nenkefetka. And the label that the British Museum has for that statue actually states that the spirit is living inside that statue, that the statue was made in order to house a spirit. So she comes to me and she says, I would love to make a labor case in defense of this guy that has been working teaching Asian Egyptian history to museum goers for over 200 years. No one's compensating him for his work. And I was like, Gala, are you serious? And she was like, yes, of course, I'm dead serious. And we managed to hire a lawyer who works at the intersection of asylum and labor rights. And we put together a legally accurate case in defense of Nenkefetka's rights as a spirit living inside the British Museum. So her artwork is that legal case. And for the exhibition in Pina, she decided to bring in what she calls the director's cut, which explores all of the obstacles and every single thing that we had to go through in order to make it possible for us to defend this guy. So there's loads of evidence, all sorts of different paperwork that we had to gather. We had to hire an Egyptologist who would tell us more about this person's wishes and what is it that we might ask in compensation. So all of that director's cut forms the exhibition in Pina, and the case itself is Gala's artwork, which will actually be shown again in London later this year.
Thank you very much, Catalina Imiskos there from Pina Magazine. You can find out more about Pina at pinamagazine.com. And that's it for this week's show. My thanks to our editor, Jack Jewers. Any comments or queries, feel free to write to me, Fernando, at fp@monocle.com. Remember, we're back next Saturday at 10 a.m. London time. Meanwhile, you can always listen again at monocle.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, you name it. You've been listening to The Stack. I'm Fernando Augusto Pacheco. Until next time, it's goodbye from me.